They mocked her for being weak, clumsy, and out of place. She just smiled and stayed quiet. But the moment her FBI badge accidentally slipped from her bag, everything changed. The room fell silent, eyes widened, and suddenly no one was laughing anymore. Emily didn't stand out much when she walked into the warehouse for her first day of work. She wore plain jeans, a loose hoodie, and carried a worn-out backpack slung over one shoulder. She looked like someone who'd just moved to the city, with nothing more than a fresh start and a few belongings. She was polite, but quiet, answering questions simply and avoiding small talk. Most of the workers at the warehouse had been there for years and were used to joking around and teasing each other like family. Emily didn't join in. She kept her head down and focused on her tasks, lifting boxes, organizing inventory, and taking notes on a small clipboard she carried. It didn't take long before some of her co-workers began to whisper. "She's weird," one of them said. "Probably never lifted anything heavier than a coffee cup," joked another. Marcus, one of the more outspoken workers, made her the target of his daily jokes. "Careful, Grandma," he said once as she passed by carrying a box. "Need help? With that clipboard, or is it too heavy?" The others laughed, and Emily just gave a small smile and kept walking. She never snapped, never complained, and never reported anyone. Most people would have cried or quit after a week, but not Emily. She came in early, worked hard, and left, quietly. No one could understand why she stayed or why she never said a word back. To them, she was just a strange, quiet girl who didn't belong in a place like this. But what they didn't realize was that Emily wasn't weak or shy. She was watching, listening, and waiting, and the moment they'd find out who she really was would change everything. As the days passed, the teasing didn't stop. It got worse. What started as small jokes turned into daily bullying. Marcus seemed to enjoy picking on Emily the most. If she walked into the break room, he'd roll his eyes and say, "Uh-oh, the boss spy is here to report us." If she dropped something, he'd shout, "Don't hurt yourself, sweetheart," and laugh while the others joined in. Some of the younger workers, trying to fit in, started copying his behavior. They'd hide her gloves, move her clipboard, or make sarcastic comments behind her back. A few people felt uncomfortable watching. It happened, but no one said anything. Emily, like always, didn't react. She never looked angry. She never raised her voice. She just kept doing her work like none of it bothered her. But it did. When she got home, she'd sit alone in her small apartment, take a deep breath, and remind herself, "You've faced worse." Because she had. Much worse. Still, there were moments during work when her hands would twitch, like she was holding something that wasn't there anymore. Her eyes, usually soft, would suddenly sharpen when someone got too close behind her. No one noticed. They just thought she was awkward, maybe socially off. What they didn't realize was that every move she made, every reaction she held back, was controlled and trained. She wasn't staying quiet because she was scared. She was staying quiet because she was trained to. Emily had spent years learning how to blend in, how to watch people without being noticed, how to wait for the right moment. And while the others were laughing and calling her weak, she was mentally tracking their behaviors, reading body language and remembering details, because sooner or later, the truth would come out. It was a regular Friday afternoon, and the warehouse was buzzing with the usual end-of-week energy. The workers were gathered in the break room, laughing loudly, eating snacks, and counting down the minutes until their shifts ended. Emily sat in the corner like always, quietly sipping her coffee and jotting something in a small notepad. As usual, Marcus couldn't resist. He looked over and smirked, loud enough for everyone to hear. "What are you writing over there? A report on us? You know, like a secret agent?" Everyone laughed. Again. Emily didn't flinch. She calmly reached into her backpack to grab her phone, but in doing so, something else slipped out and hit the floor with a soft thud. A small leather wallet slid open slightly, revealing a shiny metal badge and an official-looking ID. The laughter stopped instantly. Marcus stood frozen. One of the newer workers leaned in, eyes wide. "Is that real?" someone whispered. Emily glanced down, noticed the badge, and slowly picked it up. She gave a polite smile and casually said, "Oops," before tucking it back into her bag without another word. No explanation, no reaction. Just calm silence. The room stayed quiet for several long seconds. People exchanged stunned looks, unsure if they had just seen what they thought they had. Nobody laughed. Even Marcus seemed unsure of what to do. Emily didn't offer any details. She stood, tossed her empty coffee cup into the trash, and left the break room like nothing happened. But everyone knew everything had changed. In a single moment, the quiet girl they mocked wasn't just some shy nobody. That badge said it all. And suddenly the teasing wasn't funny anymore. In fact, it was terrifying. Because now they were wondering, who exactly is she? The atmosphere at the warehouse completely shifted after that moment in the break room. People who had once laughed had Emily now avoided eye contact. Whispers followed her everywhere she walked. Some tried to act normal, but the unease was obvious. It wasn't just about the badge anymore. It was about everything they had said and done to her. Marcus, usually loud and cocky, barely spoke a word the next day. He avoided her completely. A few brave co-workers approached Emily, trying to start conversations or awkwardly apologize, but she stayed as calm and quiet as ever. She wasn't angry. She was just detached, like none of it surprised her. Rumors began to spread quickly. One guy claimed he'd seen part of her ID and swore it said special agent. Another said he heard she used to work overseas on classified missions. By the end of the week, people were saying she had trained in Quantico, interrogated cartel leaders, and even helped stop a bombing, though none of it was confirmed and Emily never said a word. But the truth? She had done things no one in that warehouse would ever understand. She had gone undercover in high-risk operations, tracked dangerous criminals, and sat through hours of tense debriefings where one wrong word could cost lives. She didn't need to prove anything. She had taken this warehouse job only to step away from that world for a while, to be invisible, to breathe. But the badge slipping out was a mistake, and now the truth was out. She wasn't one of them. She never had been, and now they all knew it. Emily's quiet strength wasn't weakness, it was discipline. The same people who mocked her now walked on eggshells, finally realizing they had no idea who they'd been messing with. From that moment on, everything changed for Emily. The teasing stopped. The stares continued, but they were different now, cautious, curious, and filled with a quiet respect. No one dared to mock her anymore. The people who once laughed behind her back now gave her space when she passed. Some nodded politely, others offered awkward smiles, and a few even tried to make small talk, hoping to get on her good side. But Emily wasn't looking for friends, and she wasn't interested in being feared either. She had come here for peace, not attention. Still, the damage was done. The secret she never meant to share was now the one thing everyone remembered her for. Even Marcus, who had been the worst of them all, kept his distance. He didn't apologize, not with words, but the way he lowered his voice and avoided her. Eyes said enough. Emily never mentioned the badge again. She kept doing her job, showing up early, working hard, and staying quiet. But now, the silence carried weight. It wasn't the silence of someone unsure of herself. It was the silence of someone who had already proven more than enough. A few weeks later, without warning, Emily packed up her things and left the job. No goodbyes, no explanations. Just gone. But she left behind something they couldn't forget. Stories about the quiet girl who turned out to be FBI spread, far beyond the warehouse walls. People told her story like a warning, like a legend. And every time a new worker joined, someone would whisper, Be careful who you mess with around here. Remember what happened with Emily. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need attention. She left with her head high and her peace intact, because real power doesn't shout. It moves in silence and leaves a mark that never fades. If you felt inspired by Emily's journey, don't forget to like this video. It really helps us grow. Comment below what you would have done in her place. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder. Never judge too quickly. And of course, subscribe to Struggle Stories for more powerful, true-style stories. New stories drop every week, and you won't want to miss them.